Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. The bracket for the playoffs of the VCT kickoffs in the Americas has now been determined, and what a set of series we had yesterday to see exactly how this has gone. But so much reaction to the match, especially that Sen played against G2, the way they got through the play-ins, but also to the bracket itself. Sentinels versus NRG. One team qualifies as Master Madrid, one team does not. So very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. Firstly, starting with China, the ticket sales, by the way, I thought was absurd how quickly these sold out, and I do always wonder whether they should sell more seats, to be fair, for some of these venues than they presently do. But just to see what's going on in China right now, so these are the play-ins. So if you guys saw the other day, the playoffs, of course, FPX, Dragon Rage Gaming and Edwards, they made it through to the playoffs by winning their group. So the play-in determines the fourth team, and the way that it stands, Trace Esports may be looking good to get the job done. They've just 2-1'd Titan Esports Club right as of about now as I'm recording this video. I will say poor RB, man. This guy of DRX, he comes into this team, has done a good job, I think, so far. Probably had his best series so far on this team, but the other guys couldn't really get the job done. So Trace Esports take them down 2-1, and as we, of course, will see in the other regions in a second with the Americas, we then have the, BLG TEC game coming right up. And I also say the format is like, the fact that they've come for 2-1 loss, and they've got to play again immediately afterwards. It's like, I don't really know if I like this format, and many of the pro players would agree with that assessment. So, bit of trash talk as well in EMEA, pretty funny between the two, throwing the pistol of the other team off the map as well. I thought it was pretty spectacular BM and trash talk here from the KC versus Carmine Corp series. And it was Carmine Corp that actually made it through the play-ins here to get through to the playoffs. I was not necessarily expecting this. I thought the Vitality would have probably been the favoured team, but fair play to KC, right? Because they've looked a bit up and down, but when push came to shove, Casey got the job done. Didn't even lose a map in these play-ins, especially against Vitality, right, when they went 2-0. It was a close series, to be fair, 13-8, and then it was an overtime here on the Ascent, and that was on Vitality's pick. But, again, Narrates, Martine, these guys, they played a really great series here. So, impressed by Casey. They wouldn't be favoured to make it further on, but it is nice, the fact that KC, after all the, the clouding they got this last year, the melons or whatever that Sideshow would always say, they've actually made a resurgence, right? They've built a brand new team. They've really come from the ground up here, and they've actually made it through to be top 4 team, as it stands, in VCT EMEA. Now, the problem is they play Fnatic. This is the bracket as it stands. Na'Vi versus Heretics is one semi-final, and then Fnatic versus Carmine Corp is the other semi-final. We will talk about this with the Americas as well, but I wish they would show some explanation as to exactly how they've come up with these semi-finals, rather than seemingly hand-picking them, especially when there's no losers brackets here. It's just winner, you go, loser, you don't go. And, well, we'll discuss that more with the Americas in a second, because there's definitely more to say on this topic. So, KC probably won't make it to Masters Madrid, but they are only one series away from doing so. It is a series against, however, Fnatic, and of course, as the number 1 seeds, they are expected to take the victory when that gets underway, which it happens actually in a couple of days' time on the Thursday, February the 29th. However, we do also have some drama in the Americas side from Sadak. Now, I don't understand why, as an esport, we do this, because if you're running around, the entire game, the premise of the game is to shoot the other team in the head. And we all know that to be true. But apparently, when the player is deceased and you keep shooting their body, there's somehow a problem. So when the player runs around, you can shoot them perfectly fine. That's part of the game. When the player is already deceased and they're on the floor, then you're not allowed to shoot them anymore. So, Sadak put a couple of extra shots into King's body in the match they played. And apparently, he was given a warning by Riot to say, hey, don't do that. It looks bad, right? Like BM and stuff like this is not acceptable. So you'll be punished if you do it again, this type of thing. I just don't understand what we're doing at this point as an esport for this to be true. And I think for certain players, like whatever you tell them on stuff like this, they're not really going to change their ways. Like, I don't think Demon 1 is going to care that shooting bodies, Riot doesn't like it. I think he's probably just going to keep doing it anyway, because, it's part of the game as far as I'm concerned. I just don't understand what we're doing. Like, teabag and all these other things, like, apparently it's not allowed in this Riot esports, despite the fact that, it's still a shooting game at the end of the day. So I just don't understand where this whole thing is coming from, but we expect more fireworks in the Americas, and there were fireworks last night. So, the play-ins happened yesterday. Sen, MIBR, G2. One team advances, one team doesn't. And Sentinels, as expected, pretty much slammed MIBR here. 13-7, 13-6. The first map was dominant from Sentinels opening up. Then MIBR made a bit of a comeback, and then Sen won some offenses here and there to eventually get the job done. And then the Ascent was 13-6. This was actually quite the impressive series, really, I thought, from Sen, just because the Ascent, they'd lost it to Loud the other day. It was MIBR's must pick here, and they came in and, Zekin pretty much just crushed it on the jet, and they got over the line. Sassy was really good as well. I thought was impressive, of course, up against these, Brazilian aimers, I guess, as it were. They maybe don't have the best cohesion, these MIBR boys, but they can certainly shoot straight. So I think it was a confidence-inspiring victory here for Sentinels on the Ascent that they were able to take it, just because the fact that that has been a bit of a bogey map, arguably, for them as of recent times. The next series, though, was MIBR G2, and I don't know what it is about MIBR, but of course the same thing happened quite famously last year, right, when MIBR had the chance to, allow Evil Geniuses to make it through to the, to the playoffs, and eventually, of course, qualify for Masters and then the World Championship by taking down 100T. And it just seems that MIBR thrive on this opportunity, because they just lost to Sentinels comfortably. They weren't going to make it through it. After that series loss, it was GG. And MIBR, it's funny, right? They'd literally just played a series against Sen. They'd just gone down 2-0 to Sentinels, and they have to play immediately afterwards to play G2, coming off that result. So you'd think that'd be bad for them. But MIBR decided that, you know what? We're already out of the tournament at this point, because once you've got 2-0s, there's nothing you can really do to qualify at that point. You're just, it was over for MIBR. So they had nothing to play for, really, at this point. They were already out. But they decided, you know what? We're going to go next level, and we're just going to destroy G2's hopes and ambitions, which is basically what they ended up doing. So, in a crazy circumstance, MIBR actually took this series, 39 on the Sunset. They lost the split, actually, 15-13. Even this game, MIBR could have very much won it. They brought a comeback here. They nearly won at the split in regulation, but G2 won the overtime as well. But then the breeze was 13-10, and MIBR made 5 rounds in a row. So, honestly, fair play. Artson had a great close out to this series as well. And it's promising for MIBR, right? Because it was a team that, they look pretty middle of the pack right now. They could be, top 5, top 6 in that kind of ballpark, kind of where I expected G2 to be as well. But after this result, all Sentinels therefore had to do was win a single map against G2. That was all that was necessary. They'd already, of course, won against MIBR 2-0. G2 had lost to MIBR, so all that had to happen based on the tiebreakers and everything was just win one map against G2, and that's going to be job done. So they played Sunset Game 1, a map, of course, where Sentinels are very comfortable, and Zelsis made a pretty ridiculous 1 versus 2 here as well to close out one of these early rounds. So yeah, I thought I was really impressed by Sentinels. It was expected, I think, that they'd win the play-ins, but the way they did was pretty impressive. So they took down G2 in the first map, and that was their playoff-bound qualification locked in. The funny thing, of course, was, though, that the series wasn't yet over, and I think that formats where the job is done, a team is qualified, and yet there's still more to play, aren't necessarily, I guess it was kind of funny watching the rest of the series, but I don't think it was especially competitive, really. And as Chet says, of course, NRG, coach, we'll discuss NRG in a second, this format is of donkey, because, look, they tied up the series 1-1 G2, and they had the opportunity, which they did, to beat Sentinels. So congratulations, but it didn't matter based on the format, because Sentinels knew that, well, it doesn't matter at this point. And even have a look at this, right, from Zeltis. This was pretty funny, to be fair. He's in a 1 versus 4. He ain't going to win it. But, of course, in a normal situation, you would at least try. And in, 1 or 2% of the time, you'd win this round and you'd have a crazy clutch. But Zeltis decided not to even bother doing that, and just to stand around promoting the Sentinels skin on the Classic, which was hilarious. But, even gets a kill with it, and then he hits the inspect again, just to show that everyone should buy the skin. Just good quality content, I thought, before he then eventually goes down, and GT close out this round, and eventually they close out the series as well. Even at this point, right, on this split, there were some quality moments where they were looking at, this image of what they called a sideshow, and then the crowd was chanting, "We want the turtle," and then the observers showed the turtle, and everyone was going wild. So, yeah, it was an interesting series, shall we say, from that point. It was basically a glorified scrim, or glorified ranked game, to be honest, between these couple of teams to close out the day. So yeah, fair play to G2. They get the win, but it doesn't matter. And of course, Sentinels didn't want to show any strats or ideas they didn't have to, that teams that they were going to play next might be looking at. And as John QT says, Chris Paul, it's a huge tweet to cut the lead to 42. This tweet is directed to this stupid format, by the way. Now, given the way that it works, you've got 11 teams, you're trying to get down to 4 teams. It's difficult to make that work in a way that is, expected. This was the map, by the way, where Sentinels won all those defenses to close out the Sunset. And after that, as I say, it was just a bit of a mess where the results didn't matter. But I think for me, the worst thing about this format is the actual playoffs itself, because I guess we can have a look at how this concluded here. These were the play-in results. Because of Sentinels' map differential, the fact that they won a map against G2, that was enough for them to get through. So I think that part, the play-ins is it's not a great format, but I get it. You're going to play 3 round-robin games. Some people have to play back-to-back back-to-back. It's tough. Really long day as well for these guys, let's be honest. But I understand you got to go from 3 to 1. The thing that annoys me the most, though, I will say, is the way that it works in the playoffs. And the fact that it's only single elimination, the fact that it's only best of 3, I think is a real missed opportunity, to be honest. And I think it honestly means that the top 2 teams in certain regions might well not be the top 2 teams qualifying. We'll discuss that in a second. But, you know, Sentinels, fair play. Like, making it through the group of death, which was hard enough, and then making it through the play-ins in the way that they did, is definitely very commendable and, well, a well-earned break, I would take. As Sentinels had to focus up big time yesterday to get the job done. You know, gonna pass out tonight, 10 says, because he was so tired. So the issue is, though, that Sentinels have played. They played first round Loud, then they played 100T, then they played Lev, then MIBR, and then they played G2. They had to get through all of those games to qualify, played like 20 games, and now they made it through. But EG, I mean, they played 1 game because they're the number 1 seed, and they qualify. So even the group stages didn't make that much sense. And even Kaplan was saying that during their series, he requested a timeout, but the coaches, or sorry, the referees told him that no, they'd actually already used the timeouts, and Kaplan was like, are you sure about that? And then they told him next one, actually, no, sorry, you do have an extra timeout to use if you want to. So, bit of an error there on their side. Kaplan says, like, fair enough, they did a decent job, all things considered, and it didn't matter much. And as he says, GG's 1-0, we won against, you know, G2 and made it to the playoffs because, you know, those final maps just didn't end up mattering. But this is the bracket. And this is what is causing some of the controversy about the way this is done. I really wish, if they're going to do it in this way, I wish they would at least show us picking the bracket, because everyone's going to look at this and say that it's rigged. Now, I don't think it is rigged. I imagine that they've just pulled a name out of a hat and decided. So Sentinels, after making it through the play-ins, they can't play Loud because they played them in the groups, so they could only play EG or NRG. And we get, again, EG versus Loud, and then we get NRG Sentinels. Now, this is the perfect bracket from a storyline perspective. EG Loud is mega. EG have the possibility to do the funniest thing and knock out Loud to qualify for Masters Madrid. But NRG Sen, just the other day, Tens was saying that he doesn't think NRG will qualify. He doesn't think they have, you know, what it takes really to beat some of the better teams. So now he gets the chance to put his money where his mouth is, I guess, and actually deliver on that result. But I'm sure Sentinels fans are hoping for EG here, right? And of course, Loud NRG would have been a banger as well and felt almost destined to be the case. So to me, those are the 2 parts that are annoying. It's like, first of all, we don't see them putting out the name, so we don't know how they're constructing this, whether they just choose, because only one of these 2 teams qualifies on both sides. Like, it's a big deal what this bracket is, and I think it needs to be better determined than just randomization, to be perfectly honest, once you get through the group stages, then considering the fact that you can't play a team that you played in the groups already. But also the fact that this is single elimination, best of 3. Like, usually qualification games for Masters tournaments internationally are best of 5. That's usually how it's been over the last couple of years, but these are only single elim best of 3s. Like, what if NRG and Sen are the best 2 teams? That's probably not the case, to be fair. Okay, what if EG and Loud are the best 2 teams? Because Loud are probably the best team based on what we've seen in the groups. Maybe EG are the second best team. They're probably not, but let's say they are. One of them loses, one of them goes through, and, you know, what if EG would have beaten both NRG and Sentinels and are actually the second best team in the Americas? Unlucky for you, because you just got put up against Loud because of the randomization of the draw. So I don't think it's good. I also think that the tournament getting up to this point is so long and drawn out in some ways, but yet the big matches that really determine things are so quick, really. Single elim best of 3, like, I don't know, I think it should be more than that, but to be fair to the teams, we get arguably what we wanted here, right? Because NRG Sentinels is massive. Of course, we will talk about everything over the coming days. FNS says it's scripted, and you know, obviously Tarek as well, you know, rigged for money or ratings, etc., etc. So we'll see how this goes. As I say, this NRG Sen series is going to be massive, as is EG Loud potentially as well. So we'll discuss all the theories around those games over the coming days. They begin in a couple of days' time as well. So the playoffs begin on March the 2nd when EG Loud gets underway, and then it's NRG Sen on the same day, of course. So hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.